Welcome back. Tomorrow, our Iowan neighbors will head to the polls to start voting for their presidential primary, the Iowa caucuses. Now, what do we need to expect? We hear more from Professor Anthony Chergosky, and certainly not to think of all Midwestern voters as a monolith, right? But a lot of these candidates are kind of making their appeal to Iowa. Is there any transfer over to making a similar appeal to Midwestern voters, Iowa and Wisconsin at the same time?
It's questionable because Wisconsin plays a minor role in the presidential party nomination process. In fact, based on the way the campaign is unfolding, I think Donald Trump could very well have the Republican nomination wrapped up by the time we even get to Wisconsin's turn on the primary calendar. Iowa is certainly the most important state in the presidential nomination process because it goes first. It can set the tone for states that come afterwards, and that can have a key effect on the campaign. We're going to be watching on Monday to see who gets momentum from Iowa, who gets the boost in donations, who gets the boost in enthusiasm, and on the other side of that, who loses momentum? Who might even be forced out of the race as a result of a potentially disappointing finish in Iowa? So Iowa is not decisive in the presidential party nomination process, but Iowa is very significant. Meanwhile, Wisconsin may not play much of any role in the party nomination process, but Wisconsin could be the pivotal state in the general election in November of 2024. Contrast that with Iowa. Iowa used to be a pretty competitive state in the general election, but Iowa has become more and more of a solidly red state. Simply put, the presidential election in November 2024 could come down to Wisconsin. It will not come down to Iowa. Iowa will not be a decisive state in November 2024 in any way, shape, or form. What sells in the party nomination process may not sell in the general election. Right now, the candidates are completely focused on winning over those key voters in the Republican Party in Iowa, those key voters in the Republican Party in New Hampshire. That takes a certain strategy, and that may not be the right strategy in November 2024. Because in November 2024, it's all about those swing voters, it's all about those independent voters, those undecided voters. It takes a different strategy to appeal to the undecided voters in the general election than it takes to appeal to the party base in Iowa, in New Hampshire, in South Carolina. So it's going to take some strategic flexibility on the part of these candidates. They've got one strategy right now to try to win the nomination, and they'll have to adopt a different strategy if they're going to win the November election later this year.
All right, so I heard you make a prediction. Trump perhaps will have it by Wisconsin election. I'm going to hold you to it. Um, but I do also want to ask, put you on the spot as well. If we see any kind of further winnowing post Iowa or maybe post New Hampshire, do you know who the next person to depart this primary would be?
Yeah, Ron DeSantis has gone all in on Iowa. During the debate, he boasted about visiting all 99 counties. He did the full Grassley, as it's called. So DeSantis seems to really be focusing on Iowa, and that means that if he performs poorly in the Iowa caucuses, he may be out of options. He may not have anywhere to go beyond that. Yeah, Nikki Haley has focused more on New Hampshire than Iowa. In fact, Ron DeSantis criticized her for a bit of a joke that Nikki Haley made about how New Hampshire corrects what happens in Iowa. And it was sometimes in politics, it's a bit of a dangerous thing to be making those jokes. It's particularly a dangerous thing to be making jokes about Iowans when they have such a crucial role in the process. This is not the only gaffe that Nikki Haley has made as of late. She called the star basketball player in Iowa, Caitlin Collins, the CNN anchor. And she had that days-long controversy about her view of the cause of the Civil War. It was a gaffe that actually got Joe Biden and Donald Trump on the same page, which it's a minor miracle that that happens, but they were both on the same page, really affirming that their view that slavery was the key cause of the Civil War. So that was a gaffe. Certainly this was a gaffe to go to New Hampshire voters and say, look, you can correct what happens in Iowa. I mean, there is something to what she was saying. Winning the Iowa caucuses is not a guarantee that a candidate would become the nominee. Look at Ted Cruz in 2016. He won the Iowa caucuses, but he did not become the nominee. He failed to gain much momentum beyond Iowa, and he failed to become the key alternative to Donald Trump. So I think you put it perfectly, Will. Iowa doesn't necessarily decide who the nominee will be for a party, but Iowa plays a crucial role in the winnowing process. Iowa can narrow the field. And I think the stakes are really high for Ron DeSantis on that note, because if Ron DeSantis comes in third place in Iowa, it's over for him. It just is, because his candidacy, his campaign is not structured to survive a disappointing finish in Iowa. So DeSantis has to come in second, and he has to come in a strong second in order for his campaign to have the type of momentum it'll take for him to extend his campaign beyond Iowa. Still, Iowa is crucial in giving candidates momentum. So I mean, let's hypothetically say that Donald Trump wins by 40 points in Iowa. Then it's pretty clear at that, it's pretty clear in that scenario where this race would be heading. So Iowa plays a key role in the winnowing process. I think some things we might say generally, Chris Christie exiting the campaign helps Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley needs a strong finish in New Hampshire. She doesn't absolutely need to come in second in Iowa, but it certainly help. So as we look ahead to Monday, it's do or die time for Ron DeSantis. Iowa is do or die for Ron DeSantis. And if he has a disappointing finish in Iowa, it's hard to see how his campaign can really continue.
Fascinating. There's so much to look out for. Professor Chergosky, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.